Here are some tips and tricks to get the best battery life out of your Samsung Galaxy S23. Just keep in mind that some of these may not be for everyone, so pick and choose the ones that work for you and your needs, and possibly squeeze a few more hours out of your battery life. Let's get into it. Now we'll be focusing on options that don't affect the performance that much, because let's face it, it doesn't help you spend all that money on a flagship device just to remove all of its features to get a little bit more battery life out of it. So number one will be to switch over to dark mode, and the reason this will actually save you battery is because of the OLED display. So how OLED displays work is that each pixel illuminates individually, meaning that for every black pixel, that pixel is actually turned off, and for darker colors, those pixels actually are a lot dimmer. This will drastically improve the battery while your screen is on, meaning that you have to worry a whole lot less about your screen draining all of your battery. Next will be to switch your screen from adaptive 120Hz to 60Hz, and having your display output at only 60Hz make quite a big difference in battery life and only makes a slight difference in performance and how premium your device actually feels. Having your screen refresh at a higher rate than 60Hz does make the device feel more responsive and smooth, but ultimately, since this is an adaptive 120Hz display, it means that it's not always at 120Hz, so turning that down to 60Hz doesn't make the biggest difference in your performance, but does make quite a big difference in your battery life. So if battery life is one of your main concerns with your devices, then maybe consider switching it down to 60Hz instead of leaving it on the adaptive. Next will be to turn off always on display, and this is one of those features that may not drain that much battery, but having it off does make a difference. Another reason why it's a good choice to maybe turn it off, because if you're anything like me, I usually have either my phone in my pocket, on a desk somewhere, or somewhere in general where I don't actually see the screen, meaning that even if you have always on display, for 90% of the time, you can't actually make use of it. Now, if you're someone who likes to make use of the always on display during certain times of the day, let's say for example during the night to have as a bedside clock, then of course you can just schedule the always on display to be on during the times that you actually sleep, meaning that the rest of the time will be off, saving you battery, and then it will only be on when you actually want it to be on. Another thing you can do to save on battery is to turn off nearby device scanning, and what this will allow you to do is still connect to nearby devices, but your phone will no longer keep looking for them. Now this will help you save a lot of battery, since your device won't be looking for other devices to connect to during the day at all times in the background, and rather just keep that control in your hands and help you save some battery in return. Next is to turn off extra brightness, and this is one of those features that could actually really drain your battery really fast. So if you're someone that uses your smartphone in brightly lit areas, whether that is outside or indoors in like a studio space for example, then your smartphone might actually opt to turn up the extra brightness, meaning that it's outputting a lot of power to the display itself, meaning that it could be draining your battery extra fast, especially if you don't actually need the extra brightness. Now, if you're someone that works in brightly lit areas or you use your device mostly outside, then I would suggest testing this out for a day or two, maybe with the extra brightness turned off. See how your mileage will differ compared to having it on and off. And if it makes a big difference in your life, then turn it back on and no harm, no foul. But if you're someone that doesn't actually make use of the extra brightness, then just turn it off and save some battery. The next one is something that I've also heard a lot of other people say, and that is to actually turn off 5G. This is especially aimed towards people living in countries where you don't actually get the full benefits of using 5G, and where using 4G may just be either as good or better than actually connecting to 5G. This is another one of those settings that I would suggest actually go out and trying yourself. Turn off 5G for a day or two, see how your mileage will differ between using 4G and 5G. And if you're not really getting that much of a difference between using 4G and 5G, then I would suggest just staying on 4G, because it uses a whole lot less battery than actually using 5G. Next would be, if you don't need that much processing power, then I would highly suggest switching your performance mode to light. Now what this will allow your device to do is to actually prioritize cooling and your battery life over the processing speed, so you may see a decline in performance on your phone, especially in heavy use cases like playing games and doing tasks that require a lot of power. Now I do have to add that standard mode does still try and strike this balance between performance, battery life, and cooling, but it does prioritize more on the processing side, whereas the light mode does strike more of the emphasis on the battery life and cooling, with performance being a little less. And then lastly, in a pinch, you can always use power saving mode. Now I do know a lot of people don't mind the reduction in performance, but for me, I like getting what I'm paying for, so for me, it is sort of a last resort option. Now from within the power saving settings, you can choose to either activate it as a whole, or you can choose the ones that you would like to turn off to give you a nice balance between getting the most out of your battery life while still getting the compromise of getting what you want as well. And that is it for today's power saving video. I hope you guys found it useful and informative, even though there are still a whole lot of other options out there. But for this video, I really wanted to focus on the ones that don't affect performance that much. Also, let me know down in the comment section below, what are some of your power saving tips to get the most out of your battery? Let's learn from each other, let's have a conversation down below, and then, as always, until next time, cheers.